And God's purpose is that we live in His goodness, that we walk in His light. In Genesis, God said He divided the light from the darkness, and He is still dividing the light from the darkness. Jesus is the dividing line between what is truly good and what is not. Jesus said in John 8:12, read it with me. I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. John knew Jesus in a way most people did not know Jesus. John was called the disciple whom Jesus loved for a reason. John was always close to Jesus, not only physically, but emotionally and spiritually. As long as he lived, and John lived to probably be close to 100 years old, he always told people to love Jesus and love one another. John had experienced the goodness of God in the person of Jesus, his Savior. And John spent his life following Jesus, walking in His light, walking in His goodness. And that's why John could say, John 1:14, and the Word became flesh. Read it with me. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld His glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Who was the Word? We call His name what? Jesus. Jesus. And John knew Him. John said, I saw Him. I saw the goodness of God in Jesus. I saw God's glory revealed in the face of Jesus. John says, I was in the presence of Jesus. I leaned on Jesus. Jesus put His arm around me. Everywhere Jesus went, the goodness of God went. And that goodness was seen in how He touched the lives of people. He healed the blinded eyes, the deaf ears, the crippled limbs. He fed the hungry and comforted the brokenhearted. He prayed for His disciples and for those who were walking in the darkness of sin. Matthew 9 tells us, then Jesus went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, healing every sickness and every disease among the people. But when He saw the multitudes, He was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered, like sheep having no shepherd. And then He said to His disciples, the harvest truly is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Therefore pray the Lord of the harvest to send out laborers into His harvest. Why did Jesus say that? Because He loved people, even those who didn't love Him. Jesus was the only man who had ever truly lived a life of God's goodness. And He lived perfectly because Jesus was more than just a man. He was God in the flesh. See, Jesus lived on this earth for a little more than 30 years, and in all that time He never sinned, not even once. That's why the Hebrew writer said, for we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, not like the Old Testament high priest who just offered blood for us, but this high priest, the Word, Emmanuel, was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. For such a high priest was fitting for us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and has become higher than the heavens,